trendy man wearing Google glasses meant nothing. Magical telepathy app real love way to help lucky lady get real love.
How do women in love know whether their man is their Mr. Right? Recently, a company called Lady I DIY, which produces high-end custom wigs, launched a revolutionary wig where women wear this magical telepathic real love tester wig. If the hostess meets Mr. Right, their heartbeat instantly activates the built-in laser tube shot, the arrow of Cupid. When women meet rude, dull, flashy guys without real love, the arrow of Cupid cannot be shot.
When we fall in love, we experience an instant boost in excitement. That feeling is unlike any other excitement we encounter in life. Can experience women real feelings.
When excited, the adrenal medulla secretes catecholamine, which affects the autonomic nerve and stimulates the heart rate, which has a built-in sensor based on heart rate to determine the person you strike up a conversation is real love or not.
This wig of built-in sensor reads the user's heart rate signal and sends it to a special app via Bluetooth for analysis. The app then calculates the real love rate based on changes in the heart rate over time. When the real love rate exceeds a certain value, the wig will automatically shoot the arrow of Cupid.
Until now, wig is just a beautiful ornament, but now it is an instrument to test for real love. Women always seek real love. I believe this wig will become a friend of women around the world. Lady I DIY, lucky and design it yourself.
Coming out of Washington has lit up Twitter and Facebook. Congressman Ron Paul and Barney Frank will be introducing a bill that would end marijuana prohibition. A short time ago, Texas Republican Ron Paul spoke with me about exactly what he's advocating. Take a listen.
Well, removing it from the jurisdiction of the federal government and allow the states to regulate it like they would alcohol. And, you know, this seems to be strange for a lot of people, but, you know, I'm only going back to 1937 where that's the way it was handled. The states always did this, and I'm motivated strongly also because the states legalize it for the use of medicinal purposes, and it is helpful for people who have cancer and are getting chemotherapy. So this is not a huge radical idea. It's something that was legal for a long, long time, and the war against marijuana causes so much hardship and accomplishes nothing. So I would say that marijuana, as far as causing highway problems, is minuscule compared to alcohol, and yet we knew prohibition of alcohol was very bad. So this is just getting back to a sensible position on how we handle difficult problems, and for me it should be the states.
All right, let the states regulate, and yes, I agree with that. That's a free market position. It's a 10th Amendment position. Mr. Paul, one of the debates, though, you came out for legalization of marijuana and heroin. Is that still your view?
Well, you know, I've never used the word heroin in my life when I talk about legalizing freedom of choice. And that one, too, was once legal. And, you know, I concluded that argument, and they sort of got the point when I said, when they were making a big deal, you know, your freedom philosophy means somebody, you know, could use heroin. I said, you know, if tomorrow we legalized heroin, how many of you in this audience would use heroin? Of course, nobody would. So, you know, it's a moot point. It's how you regulate things and whether or not this $1 trillion we spent on the war on drugs, really since the early 1970s, the modern day war on drugs started with Richard Nixon, and it's a catastrophe, just as prohibition of alcohol was a catastrophe. So yes, there are regulations for children and the way the states want to handle it, but you know, it's sort of like saying I believe in the First Amendment. Oh, that means you're pro-pornography or something like that. It's ridiculous. You know, permitting something to happen doesn't mean that you authorize it or endorse it. is not an endorsement of what people do.
But do you worry? Do you worry, sir? I mean, look, I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug abuser. I'm coming up to 16 years with God's grace. Do you worry, sir, that this opens the door to more drug use, sets the wrong example, sends the wrong signal? It's an honest question on my part. Do you ever worry about that? You yourself?
No,
are
because
a doctor.
I think it's much worse, because kids today have an easier time finding marijuana than they can alcohol. And how many cases of drug addictions were prevented by the laws? Do the laws really do it? Would it putting you in prison for about 5 years? Do you think that would have helped you? Would that have cured you? No, this is a medical problem. It's not a legal problem. You shouldn't be a criminal because you have a problem with drugs. So I just don't think putting you in prison would have been helpful at all.
All right. Well, I did it through a faith-based self-help program, but I appreciate your point of view, Dr.
The
Paul.
market, Larry, that's the market way of taking care of a problem.
Yes, and I do, and I want to agree with you on why the states should have the jurisdiction on this and so many other things.
Right.
I think that's exactly the right position.
We should be very consistent.
I got to go. Congressman Paul, you're terrific for helping us out tonight.
High school.
Now the school district is under fire trying to explain why his uniform wasn't welcome on campus. Fox 2's Mario Liu with that story from Rochester.
In this story, Lieutenant Colonel Sherwood Baker is not a spokesman for the United States Army. He's just a dad trying to help his daughter find her way in a brand new high school.
He's a lieutenant colonel. He served in the Army for 24 years, and he was told in order to get into Rochester Adams High School, he needed to take off his uniform.
When you see a man or woman in uniform in America, you'll most often hear,
"Thank you for serving the country," or I remember one time somebody paid for our dinner.
But Tuesday, the lieutenant colonel got anything but a welcoming treat. He came to Rochester Adams High School to speak with counselors about his daughter's class schedule, but he couldn't even get inside.
Before he was allowed in, the security guard stopped him and said, "Sorry, you're not allowed in the school." And the security guard told him that men and women in uniform weren't allowed because it may offend another student. By not one, but 4 different people.
I can't believe they would even think like that after all they do for our country. It's crazy.
I appreciate everything that the military does for us, and I think they should be welcomed in as examples into our high school, not kept out.
It's rude.
Why?
Because he shouldn't be turned away just because he's wearing a suit.
He's been in Iraq a bunch of times. He's been in Afghanistan. He and his family lived in Germany, and they lived in Japan. And now he's here.
I was really, really happy that he was back. He's been kind and always asks me how my day is after I come home from school, and that just makes me really happy that he cares and stuff.
The district superintendent, who's a veteran himself, quickly rectified the situation, apologizing to the family and sending this statement to Fox 2 News. It reads, the district has apologized for any perception that individuals in uniform are not welcome in the school. The district does not have a policy excluding individuals in uniform and will be working with administration and the firm that handles our security to make sure the district policies are understood and communicated accurately. We regret this unfortunate incident and want to assure our military community that we respect and honor their service to our country.
I love you so much, and thank you for trying to make this school year better.
The family has scheduled a meeting with the school principal in the coming days just to smooth things over, but the family has also received a lot of support from military families with children who go to this school and also just people who live in the area appalled that this has happened. In Rochester Hills, I'm Marielle Liu, Fox 2 News.
Trail. We know Rick Perry is not the only Texan hoping to take over the White House. But CBS 19's Austin reporter Jennifer Black shows us Ron Paul supporters say he gets no respect.
It looks a lot like your typical movie trailer.
A story of smooth-talking politicians.
But complete with direct punches to Rick Perry, it's a campaign ad for Ron Paul. Don Zimmerman started following Congressman Paul in the early 70s. He went on to fundraise for the presidential hopeful. He says Perry's entrance into the race this go-round will give Paul a chance to distinguish himself even more.
It further dilutes the traditional establishment Republican vote.
Paul's supporters say they have a strong candidate, but are frustrated with the mainstream media.
And it's a sense of unfairness, because you have somebody that finishes second in the straw poll, and the media goes out of its way to ignore the result.
Ross Ramsey is the managing editor of the Texas Tribune. He says Paul has simply been crowded out.
Bachman kind of moved up, Palenti moved out, Rick Perry moved in.
Despite that, Ramsey says Paul should be taken as a serious contender.
He's been ideologically in kind of the same place for a long time and holds his ground. I mean, he's famous for sort of voting his ideology and sticking to his guns.
Ron Paul really stands behind his rhetoric, and I'm not sure I can say the same for Rick Perry. You got to give Rick Perry credit. He's a great campaigner.
A fact sure to present a huge challenge. Austin, Jennifer Black, KYTX, CBS 19 News.
Ron Paul's TV ad hit the airwaves in Iowa and New Hampshire this week.
And earlier we asked you to visit our website and tell us of the 2 Texas candidates who has your vote. Let's look at the results tonight.
19% said Rick Perry and 81% said Ron Paul. If you'd like to vote, kick in your opinion there. Go to CBS19.tv and you'll see our daily poll right there on the homepage.
Surprising result.
It is surprising.
Yeah.